Welcome, everybody. Once again, we are here to help Gordon Dill with our consumer expert, Diane Lee. Diane, this time we're going to begin with something that a lot of people find very easy to get into and very, very hard to get back out of.
Yes, it is so tricky to get out of timeshares, and that is the topic that we want to open the door to let you know that there are ways that you can exit those safely.
Roughly 10 million people own timeshares in America, and when they no longer want to be stuck with those hefty annual fees, a lot have major trouble getting rid of their so-called property. I'm 7 News consumer anchor Diane Lee with a warning about timeshare exit companies and your options for offloading your timeshare.
Look, we were both young.
Ada and Terry McGee's love of travel led them to purchase not one, but 2 timeshares 36 years ago.
This is when we went to the Outer Banks.
But in the last few years, the Anderson couple has been eager to sell or even give away the timeshares because of soaring fees.
You have to pay for it, whether you have the money or not.
What's worse, the McGees signed on with a timeshare exit company in 2021 that took $5,700 and disappeared.
Yeah, I just feel cheated. Like in a financial prison.
I think they all liars.
A feeling reinforced after they paid $7,400 last summer to another timeshare exit company, Legal Consulting Incorporated.
I just kept telling him, let's think about this, let's think about this. And she said, no, you only have this chance to do it.
Oh, so it was a high-pressure sales tactic.
Yeah, you got to do it now or don't do it.
The McGees contacted 7 News here to help when months went by and Legal Consulting and their partners would not return their calls. In a statement, the company apologized for any frustrations and said they're working to resolve the McGees situation.
Another red flag, nowhere in the documents does it say the McGees have the right to cancel within 3 days. Companies who visit your home or sell at a third-party location are required to inform buyers of that right.
We asked Legal Consulting about that issue too, and they did not respond. Hunter Jones, the head of the Better Business Bureau of the Upstate, says the biggest red flag in the timeshare exit industry is when a company asks for money up front.
How prevalent are these timeshare exit scams?
Thousands and thousands of consumers get scammed every year. I've actually went into people's homes before and visited with these people. They end up paying more money to get out of the timeshare than they paid for the timeshare in the first place.
There are far fewer companies that offer free guidance and a cheap portal to list properties for resale. Timeshare Users Group is one of them.
At the end of the day, there are only 3 ways to get rid of a timeshare. The first one is to sell it or give it away via the resale market, and obviously some resorts are easier to do than others. The second option is to negotiate with the resort to give your ownership back. The third option is to stop paying and let it go into default.
We should note, resale usually means giving it away and even adding incentives like 1-year paid fees. Exit companies won't tell you you can create those enticing listings on your own. As for giving back your timeshare, the American Resort Development Association, which represents timeshares, lists the resorts who will take back paid-off units, though most charge a $1,500 fee. Now, when it comes to stopping maintenance payments, industry experts say while it may ding your credit, it's a myth that it will likely lead to foreclosure, since resorts want to avoid costly legal fees. Another myth?
If we die, our heirs are stuck with the yearly fees.
Well, here's the good news that we've learned. The heirs are not stuck. That is a complete myth.
There's a misconception that a timeshare automatically conveys to somebody's heirs. As a matter of fact, there are legal processes that are available to all heirs, or they can reject that timeshare in the overall process.
The McGees warn timeshare exits,
By the way, they gave us a guarantee too.
may only make you feel more stuck.
Now, one more thing to note, consumer advocates say if you do pay up front for an exit plan, make sure to use your credit card since it offers more fraud protection.
You know what? I would be remiss, Diane, if I didn't begin with the red flag that you caught in the interview. You must make this deal right now, or else it goes away. That is always, as you have said many times, a huge red flag.
Yeah, high pressure sales tactic. And that is what they do every time. Gordon, I've actually had the experience, just to test it out, of visiting one of these timeshare sales. So not the exit ones, but the original timeshare sales where they say, oh, you'll get 2 free tickets to this. So I went to explore it in my early years, and
And it starts there, right? That's where you start to feel that really, hey, you've got to do this now. They'll even pull out a binder showing their own family and that you're supporting their family by helping them make the sale. They'll try every different tactic.
Buy this for my kids?
Buy this. Like, you're supporting my family. I'm a young person trying to start out, and you know, so they'll try to appeal with you to you for any of these tactics, especially the high pressure sales tactic. But that translates to the exit companies as well. They'll say, you've got to do this. You've got to do this now, and they'll give you several compelling reasons, but do take a breath and make sure you research that company.
Yeah, no kidding, Diane. Let me start at the other issue that jumps out of this story here, and it's maybe a separate issue, but are timeshares just a bad investment in general? I mean, is it everybody that you talk to in this kind of seems to regret ever doing it?
Gordon, I would say that is a very common theme in the industry. I hate to completely stereotype or categorize, but I would say this is an industry that you have to be especially careful of. I did in my story list some of the reputable companies that do offer to buy back timeshares that are paid off. That's extremely important. And they still often charge a fee for it. But I think the lesson from this story, and really from any of these timeshare owners, is that it is so hard to get out of, so hard to sell a timeshare, that you really are stuck. And the reason why that's horrible is because it's not just paying off, quote, this shared property, but it's also those fees. And those fees are not stagnant. They can rise every year, and you can really get stuck paying a lot for something that you don't use that much.
And again, if it wasn't a demand, there wouldn't be a scam.
Right.
The only reason there is a timeshare exit scam is because there are a lot of people desperate to get out of a timeshare.
Yeah, that's a very, very good point. So one of the organizations that you can go to for help is Timeshare Users Group. Gordon, I believe you might have the website for that. We can pull up. But yeah, it was Tug. Mm-hmm. And that TUG for short. So just remember that if you have a timeshare and you're looking to explore, you can contact Timeshare Users Group and ask them about some of these exit companies that you might come across, or ask them ways that you can list. And in my story, I also show ways that you can list on the open marketplace. Again, you will have to offer likely some big incentives, like, hey, we'll pay the first year fees down, and you know, we'll even pay you to buy our property.
Literally, we will give you money to take this free thing.
Exactly. But just getting that title off your hands can mean that in future years, you won't be stuck with so many of those fees. But TUG is an organization that's been around for a long time. It was actually started by the father of Brian, the man we spoke with. And so it's been around for about 30 years. And they started just because they got irritated in their own family with what was happening. And so they try to help others.
And so quickly, for people who maybe have never engaged in this whole process to begin with, tell people what a timeshare is.
Right. So a timeshare is basically a shared property that you own and other people own, and you can use it at certain times during the year. So you might have purchased, a stay at not a specific apartment, but an apartment unit within a certain great resort. And you actually might be able to trade that off with other resorts within that whole conglomerate. But you basically purchase 2 weeks to be able to do that, maybe 2 or 3 weeks a year. And one of the other issues with timeshares as a result is you think, wow, I'll be able to vacation at these great resorts, and it's going to be at a reduced cost. That's what you're told. But sometimes you can't even get in on the weeks that your boss lets you off. So you might not even be able to use that because it's so coveted. Everyone's kids are taken off the same time, and so they're all wanting that week, and so you can't even use that. So that's another thing you might want to consider. But really, it's you kind of own a property, but not a specific property, and you only own it for a certain couple of weeks a year, but you're made to pay those fees for the entire year.
That does not sound like any property ownership. You're really basically buying a right to give away money, mandated money every 2 years. And if I don't use that timeshare, let's say I bought a timeshare for once a week in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, and then this year, because of work, I cannot go to Myrtle Beach. You're still paying for that timeshare.
Oh yeah, definitely. You're paying out the timeshare, and you're definitely paying the fees for it. Even if you've, quote, paid off the mortgage on the timeshare, you're still every year paying the fees for it, and you may not be able to use it. So that's one thing to think of before you get into the timeshares. But really, the exit scams are just, like you said, Gordon, they wouldn't be a scam if there wasn't a demand to get out, and they are increasing, and they're really quite a serious problem. So before you sign on with an exit company, here's what I would recommend. Do your research. And when I say that, there are such great ways to check up on them. So type in that company's name on the BBB website. Type in that company's name in Google or ChatGPT with the comma, the word scam. See what comes up. See the reviews. Make sure that you're reading reviews that are trustworthy and not perhaps orchestrated by the company itself. And don't fall victim to the high-pressure sales tactic. They don't want you to look into the company or spend any time doing that. So if you start to get that sense in the back of your neck, that might be a clear sign that this is not where you want to go.
Yeah, these companies that you dealt with, the scam companies in your story, are those domestic companies, or are they straight up just overseas scams? I mean, where are they getting away with charging somebody $5,000 and not providing any service whatsoever?
Interestingly, I believe that the one that I focused on for this story was originated out of Florida.
Wow.
And so they're not necessarily coming from overseas. They're not necessarily complete scams. The way that they word their contracts, just like the timeshare industry itself, which is a bit unusual and creative in its thinking and how you own something, the way that they word their contracts, I mean, they are legitimately having people sign these agreements, and their fee is really high, but they are, quote, justifying it. So it's locking you into a situation that isn't completely illegal per se. They keep saying, oh, we just need more time to accomplish this, or we posted this listing, but we're still waiting to get back. So it's hard to completely prove and get your money back that they aren't doing what they said they were going to do. None of these contracts are going to have a money back guarantee either.
Yeah, maybe they're not a scam. They're just doing a bad job for the money you've paid them.
Yeah.
So maybe the best piece of advice we could give people, Diane, tell me if this is wrong, is before you invest in a timeshare, first of all, be very sure that's what you want, but maybe have in writing how I get out of this timeshare before I sign up for it.
Yes, that is a very important question to know before you ever agree to have a timeshare. And I would go with that list of companies in my story. If you want to look at that story again, you can find it on WSBA.com/consumer. And you can see that list of companies that will do buybacks. That's a safer way to go with a timeshare. They're probably a little bit more expensive up front, but if you really want a timeshare, make sure it's a reputable company that would buy it back once you've paid it off.
Buyer beware, as always, with these stories. Consumer expert Diane Lee. I'm Gordon Dill. We're back with some more great advice after this quick message. And we are back. We've got a theme to the episode this time about contracts you get locked into and struggle to get back out of. We started with timeshares today. We're going to broaden that out a little bit, Diane, to contracts in general.
Yeah, especially contracts that auto-renew. We're talking about services, things like alarm securities. It's something you want to check for in every contract because sometimes that language can really wrap you into a situation that's difficult to get out of.
When you're signing a contract for a product or service and you don't read it, that legal language can put you in a bad spot without you knowing it until it's too late. I'm 7 News consumer anchor Diane Lee with a warning about auto renewal policies that can lock you into years of payments for a service you no longer want.
Yeah, I sit out here a lot late in the evening.
The quiet life.
That sun goes down.
For Herbert McCoy in Greenwood.
He was walking up the road here, selling stuff.
Was anything but after 5 years locked into an agreement with a home security company that he says wouldn't let up.
They just kept calling, aggravating. I bet they would call 50 times in a week.
McCoy says Alder Home Security failed to protect him for the last 3 years of payments after the system broke.
It was on this door here.
So he told them he would not renew. And then
They told me I couldn't get out of this contract.
Since the contract had a built-in auto-renewal policy, it signed him up for another 5 years, and McCoy says Alder refused to cancel it. McCoy's son-in-law, Adrian Little, reached out to 7 News after tracking down a 13-page contract through the Better Business Bureau that he says Alder had refused to provide.
We did not sign this. This is not my father-in-law's signature.
You all ever seen this contract?
We had not seen the contract until a few weeks ago, so we had not signed the contract either.
It's like I told him, that's not my signature.
Here's the real McCoy on his driver's license, and they say the contract signature looks nothing like it. Attorney Rodney Pillsbury in Greenville says forgery makes any contract void, but even without that, the document raises red flags.
What concerns you about this contract?
The disparity in the terms and the application, it is so one-sided in favor of the corporation.
Like that 60 months renewal period with early termination charges of 90% of all monies due for the remaining term. It added up to $3,000 for McCoy, but he didn't have to pay it because 7 News Here to Help got Alder to cancel the contract.
Did you ever think the phone calls would stop?
Nope. And I'd still be being harassed by them people if you hadn't come here and checked into this.
As it was, the fight wasn't over for the McCoys. Just when the quiet life was returning,
I felt a lot better. I didn't hear the phone ring all day.
the family got this notice saying their account had been transferred to ADT along with several bills.
It was just to get this. It was like being rescued from a sinking boat and then finding that the helicopter you'd been rescued in was just going down into the sea and you're going to need to be rescued again.
So what does Alder have to say? The company sent us this video showing McCoy accepting the initial service agreement.
Did you sign and do you fully understand the terms and conditions in your agreement?
Yes. Yes.
In a statement, the company said, for the safety of our customers, Alder requires a formal written notice of cancellation either via email or letter. Our records indicate that Alder attempted to contact McCoy on at least 4 occasions to notify him that we were awaiting his written cancellation request. The full statement also addressed the transfer of service, calling the contract inadvertently assigned to ADT. Better Business Bureau complaints show a pattern of that transfer, leaving unsuspected customers with hefty bills. 7 News reached out to ADT, and that service was canceled too with no charge.
Whether you have a news team on your side, you can fight these type of contracts in small claims court. The cost is minimal since you don't need an attorney, but you'd be wise to consult with one on your strongest arguments.
McCoy is once again enjoying the peaceful life, and if any stranger comes round,
I will never buy nothing else from a door salesman. They can come in here selling Bibles, and I ain't buying one.
By the way, McCoy said he had never seen that video from Alder and maintains he was not properly informed of the terms and conditions. The big take home here, before agreeing to any service, make sure you get that contract in writing and read it.
You know what, Diane? Regular viewers of this this broadcast are going to say to themselves, door-to-door salesman, no, don't buy anything from a guy who comes to your door.
Yeah, that's the biggest first clue. Obviously, you do really want to be careful about door-to-door salespeople because, again, they're also going to have the high-pressure sales tactics there, and you're going to feel compelled to do something, but it could put you in a jam.
Yeah, it can. I have to say, this is a bigger issue than I expected. When you told me about this story, my first thought was, okay, I sign up for a gym contract. The gym contract automatically renews whether I use the gym or not, but I always have the option to use the gym and I can always cancel. This is different. This is a service this guy wasn't even getting.
Right. The fine print here, first of all, as you saw, the equipment didn't work and he was trying to get it fixed to no avail. But the fine print here was just so one-sided. Mm-hmm. You got not a 3-month renewal or a 1-year renewal. You got a 60-month renewal. And to cancel once that renews, you had to pay 90%. And then on top of that, in order to cancel, you can't just call in, you've got to do it in writing. So even if he called and said, I didn't want this, or a rep talked to him and he said, I don't want this, it doesn't count. In their book, they said in their contract, it's got to be in writing in the fine print. And, you know, families like Mr. McCoy's feel that they were taken advantage of because they were never supplied a written contract. These are digital contracts that, you know, the door-to-door salesperson will have them sign. And so they're never really able to read in writing what the agreement is. And on top of that, even if they were given a written contract, it was so many pages and so much fine print that who knows if they ever would have realized how truly one-sided it was.
So this is one of those deals where it's, hey, I've got this contract, sign it with your finger on my iPad.
Exactly, right.
And people, it takes advantage of people's hospitality, I suppose. I don't want to make this fella stand on my porch for an hour while I read through a contract, but of course you should.
And what Mr. McCoy told me was that it was a college student who had come, who was hired for the summer to do this, and he really wanted to support the college student. And, you know, in truth, the college student may not have been educated on the true nature of the contract. So, you know, we're not trying to say that that particular person who sold him this was completely at fault, but it really should have been front and center when you're selling something to make sure people know completely what the agreement is.
I mean, we sign these all the time, Diane. You can't use your cell phone without agreeing to your iTunes contract and your email contract and every other program you use. You sign it. No one reads any of that stuff. So it seems like it would be very easy to find yourself in this mess.
Definitely. And Gordon, I know you and I were just talking the other day about the cell phone contracts, one of which I remember saying to you was 72 pages. So you're absolutely right. We can definitely find ourselves in this situation every day. I think the important thing is to ask just the key questions before you're signing of the representative. So if they don't have a clear-cut explanation of what the auto renewal policy is, then you shouldn't sign. So make sure to ask. It's just something that should be on your radar. Can I cancel at any time? And if not, and does it auto renew? And how long does it auto renew for? And can I cancel after the auto renewal? And if they say yes, you've got to ask a follow-up question. You've got to say, can I cancel at any time? Or do I have to wait for the auto renewal policy to carry through? And will I owe any money if I do cancel early?
I mean, a 5-year renewal period is onerous. That is truly exceptional. I've never heard anything. A 5-year period is crazy.
And that's what the attorney was saying, that really is an egregious policy. And so that's where he felt that, you wouldn't have to hire an attorney and make that expense, that you really could make a case in small claims court, magistrate's court, for a very minimal fee and no attorney fees, that you probably would be successful in a situation like this. But again, not all of us are educated or used to being able to go to a courthouse and file this kind of stuff. And so that's why we really appreciate Mr. McCoy helping us understand what happened to him and getting out the warning with this.
I do appreciate it, but we should say this about everybody who participates in one of your stories, because it can be very embarrassing to speak up and go on TV and say, I signed up for something I shouldn't have. I think I got ripped off. So all credit to the McCoys for doing that.
I am so grateful for the people who do call into our newsroom and let us know and are willing to go on camera, because without them, we wouldn't be able to educate others. And it really helps to hear it from the person that it happened to, so we understand all of the red flags.
Okay, so we have this pulled up. I think I have the BBB. Here it is. Wait, the Better Business Bureau on the web. Here we go. So this is the company, Alder, right? This is the alarm system company. And this, they highlighted in red, first of all, not accredited by the Better Business Bureau. That's a huge red flag.
Right. And if you go deeper into it and you click on some of the, you might want to, let's see, scroll down just a little bit. I'm looking here. You got the complaints there. So you can read those complaints. If you go deeper in, you'll see what the rating is. The BBB is no longer showing the rating up front, but you can see how many complaints there are and whether they've gone unanswered or answered. And that's very important. Sometimes they'll be answered, but it still wouldn't be satisfactory.
Diane, 73 pages.
Yeah, exactly.
That's insane.
Yeah, so if you go deeper in, you'll see they still have an F rating. But aside from the rating, those complaints are really what is so crucial here. And many of them might have resolutions by now, but it might say resolved or answered, but it might not have left the actual client. There you go. So you got a single star.
A one
review.
rating.
Yeah, a one.
And only because it doesn't go to zero.
Yes, exactly.
So this is a step you would take with any contract you're about to sign. I mean, again, please be very careful about the guy who shows up unannounced at your front door and has a high pressure dip. That's always huge. But always maybe make a minute to look at the Better Business Bureau and see if this stuff is out there.
I think the golden rule is that you're probably not the first person that's encountered this. And we have found that for every one person that calls into our newsroom and warns us about something, there's probably like 10 or double that of people who've actually experienced it. So if you go online and you start to see even just a small pattern of people complaining, there's probably so many more that weren't able to take the time to go online and file a review. But that is when you are putting your money, especially money away that will affect you for years, with any organization, any company, the first step you should always take is to check organizations like the BBB, and even just a Google search could help indicate whether people have had a good experience with that company.
The other thing that is a red flag here, and it's too late for the McCoy family at this point, but he was saying he's getting 50 and 60 phone calls a day. I assume these are harassing phone calls to get money, or we're going to turn you over to collections. Is that
Exactly. Yes, that is what occurred. And so the good news is when we were able to stop the contract and we were also able to stop the ADT situation, that company, by the way, was excellent with this. They right away saw the
Well,
issue.
I've heard of them. You know, I mean, that's
exactly,
kind of a good thing.
Alder, fewer people have heard of. When we were able to stop that, those phone calls then stopped because Alder had to inform any collections agency that that was no longer an issue. And so we really solved 3 problems at once with this one. We were really glad that he reached out. This is what we like to do at Here to Help. And I'm glad that it was a happy ending for him. And we really appreciate him paying it forward because, I will say, just especially with alarm companies, not all of them again, but that is one that we have seen an unfortunate pattern with alarm companies of these auto renewal issues, and even just the upselling issues because of the door-to-door sales situation where many of the door-to-door salespeople just really want to make that sale, but maybe aren't totally informed about how the company operates. So that is an industry that you want to be careful in.
I'm honestly, I'm already pretty aware of when a person rings my door out of the blue and says, "Hey, I was thinking about your home security." Yikes!
I also wouldn't want to be ringing the door, Gordon, with you because I know you know better. You'd be like, "You get."
I don't buy things door to door. That's for sure. I don't buy cold callers. That whole thing.
Good for you.
So this applies not just. I know we're focused on home security systems and that sort of thing. But I think the rules we've learned from this contract apply not just to home security, but I can think of 100 other kinds of contracts that if they look like this, if they have the same red flags, same problem.
Definitely. And that's why we labeled this story more of a contract issue, that you really want to watch out for these contracts that you get locked into, and not just a home security. Because you're right, Gordon. It can span across several industries where you could sign something that could really lock you into a situation where you are made to make payments and it becomes extremely difficult to get out of it. And you feel so helpless. And that's why, again, I'm so glad that Mr. McCoy's relative reached out to us, because it is so almost impossible to get out of these without the help of, and it shouldn't be this way, but without the help of a news organization, that it can be very troublesome. And you don't want to have to spend attorney fees either to get out of something like this. So be forewarned.
In this episode, we did timeshares that are easy to get into and a nightmare to get out of. And now we're talking security contracts that are easy to get into and a nightmare to get out of. I think we're going to have a lot more examples as we continue to broadcast this program. But that is consumer anchor and consumer expert Diane Lee. I'm Gordon Dill, and we are here to help. We'll see you again next time.